I saw a comedian once, and during his routine, he said that there's a lot of people that are against experimentation on animals. And then he went on to say he wasn't, and that if hooking a car battery up to a monkey's brain meant that he could live longer, he had two things to say: the red is positive and the black is negative. When it comes to human evolution, there tend to be two main areas of belief: creationism and Darwinism. Creationists don't believe in evolution. Darwinists believe in evolution, but there's that missing link. If you ever watch the show Ancient Aliens, and I love that show, I would really, really love to sit there and have a strictly spiritual conversation with a lot of the regulars on that show. Not just human history, and all of that, but just straight spiritual. It doesn't even have to be biblical. It doesn't have to be religious, just spiritual. But I digress. If you ever watch the show Ancient Aliens, then it's pointed out that that missing link would be extraterrestrial intervention. So you fast forward to modern day, and that means the best chance for the next great leap in human evolution would be scientific intervention. When it comes to the testimony of my life that I have shared for over 30 years and counting, if you were to look at official and underground or unofficial, as far as everything in Colorado goes, because I have spent the majority of my life in the United States of America from 1983 until 2015 in Colorado, they'll say I'm a criminal. They'll say I'm crazy. There will even be some that'll say I'm weak and a virus. But the thing is, when I tell it, I had eidetic memory, photographic memory, psychic sensitive to a level that my empathy knew that a girl who could see auras and only told two people in her life could see auras. And I was having spiritual experiences with God. If you're of the Darwinist school, you're going to most likely discount the God part. And you're going to go with the science. So if you do that, when it comes to my life and my experience, why such what's the word I'm looking for? Deception in the scientific experimentation on eidetic, photographic, empathic, spiritual experiences with God, human being? The answer starts to become real simple when one looks at the truth of human nature. I have often said, race and religion are used as rhetoric for those who seek personal power. I learned a long time ago that universal power to the people is always betrayed by personal power. It doesn't matter if that universal power to the people is all of humanity, a race, a religion, a gang, a mafia, a family, a police force. It doesn't matter. A military unit, it doesn't matter. Those who seek the universal power for their people will always be betrayed by those who seek that personal power. So in my case, what started off as racial persecution because very powerful people with resources I've never been able to match, probably never will, that started off with something as simple as putting a microchip in my brain in order to make me their slave, suddenly was observing brain activity during a spiritual experience with God that got their noses wide open on the thought of what they could learn for their own personal power. To the level that, when it comes to my testimony and how much individuals in Colorado deceived, lied, and whatever to get me back there, to keep me there, the experiments that they're doing on people, the people that they search for to experiment upon, the whole 9 yards. As far as the rest of the country knows, you let certains in Colorado tell it, I'm a criminal and I'm crazy. And yet those same certains are doing what they can to try and find that scientific formula, if you will, in order to empower themselves beyond what mankind is now. I've often seen polls and questions, people just wondering, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? If you could be a superhuman, a god amongst men, and all you had to do was tear apart the brains of a few people in order to obtain that sort of power, would you? When it comes to superhuman and lesser human, there are those that are seeking that type of power. And they don't want people to know that they're doing it. Because odds are, at many places around the planet, it's a race. And this is why individuals and families and groups from 1989 have done me the way they have for over 30 years. This is why that girl who could see auras, when I asked her what color was my aura, and she initially said she couldn't see them. And later on, when she asked me how I knew, and I told her, she told me that she had heard of empaths like me, but she didn't think she'd ever meet one. And when I asked her why she didn't want anybody to know she could see auras, she told me because bad things happen to people like us. And when it comes to personal power, betraying universal power, the people that descended upon me initially did so out of race. The girl who said that to me was white, the same race as them. This is the truth and this is the reality. If you are someone who truly believes Neuralink is the cutting edge of technology and research in its field, then go ahead and keep waiting for the official release of whoever's beyond that, whenever they choose to let you know. In a lot of ways, the world is much, much more advanced than the average person knows. But life is lived from the inside out. We are one species. Let's treat each other better than this. Personal ambition isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's not what you do, but how you do it. And there's nothing new under the sun. especially when it comes to the motives of people's hearts. May the blessings of the Lord be upon you in Jesus' name. I love you, human fam.